Well, I don't have any more questions, I guess.
Yeah, I think we're good to roll into a snack.
You want to roll into a snack?
It's weird.
Oh, I forgot. I should probably be the one doing that.
We don't have a snack, but no, we can roll into it. Sorry for all the editing here. I guess it's actually me probably editing this.
This one is you.
Sorry, future KJ, for all this editing here.
You're listening to the Janchi Show, hosted by 3 Korean American adoptees diving headfirst into what it means to be adopted, Korean American, and more. And now, here's your hosts, Nathan, Patrick, and KJ.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Janchi Show. It's your boys, KJ, Nathan, Patrick, here with another fantastic episode. This one is an interview, but before we jump into that, fellas, how are you doing?
Doing well.
Doing great.
Nice. Everybody's chill. It's a Sunday evening as we're recording. Got those not Sunday scaries, but we're just in a chill place, getting ready for
Sunday scaries. What's that?
Yeah, it's when you hate your job and it's Sunday night and you realize you have to go back to that job that you hate.
Right.
And that's when you're like, oh my god, I want to do literally anything else. Those are the Sunday scaries. So, but none of us have those. We're all just chill.
Because everyone loves their job, right?
Yeah, that's definitely true.
I'm enjoying my job right now.
Exactly.
Everyone in the whole world loves their job.
Then, look into a new job. If you're not, I give you permission. Go ahead.
Okay,
Nice.
Nathan, what does Janchi mean?
Janchi means to feast, and we are feasting and celebrating on our adoption heritage stories and food items that we have never had before.
Items that we've never had
Literally
before.
and figuratively.
Have we done? We've done a couple. We've had a couple 2-timers, I think. Have we?
Yeah, we've had variations of a theme.
Okay.
So it'd be like, here's a version, and then here's a different flavor of said
That's
version.
true.
Mm-hmm.
That is
or
true.
here's a pepero stick, and here's a Pocky stick, and you tell me how they're different.
Well, yes. I mean, you can never get
No
too
difference.
many pepero. There's like at least 10 different flavors that we still need to try, I think.
So, yeah. But yeah, today, as I'm sure that you can tell by the title, we have an interview with Nicolle Beaury. And it's really fantastic. She, classic Janchi fashion, she filled out the form pre-going to Korea, and then we have caught her 6 months after her trip to Korea.
Yes.
We promise we're doing better. It's just sometimes scheduling is hard, especially across 4 time zones. But yeah, it was a really fantastic interview. We talk about obviously her trip, but really just her whole time growing up in upstate New York, like far away from New York City, the part that people don't maybe often think about. And yeah, it was just a good time to hear her story.
Patrick, you know Nicolle from online as well?
Yeah. I did know Nicole. We, I think, mutually followed each other on LinkedIn or Instagram first, one of the two. I don't know.
Okay.
So I've been following her work and the stuff that she does. And then we met in person, actually, at the Unity March, which as of this recording was 1 year ago. And earlier today,
wow.
I was wearing almost the exact same outfit that I was wearing that day. Like the only thing that was different was the shirt, but it was a very Asian shirt that I was still wearing. So
it was just a different,
it was just different, very Asian shirt. So
Patrick only has
funny.
3 outfits. That's it.
I actually just got a bunch of new clothes, so I got a couple new outfits y'all are going to be seeing when I get to Korea.
Anyways, yes, the Jerry Wan black shirt only.
No, I've upgraded from black shirt only, multiple shirts now.
Although you're wearing
colors.
a black shirt right now.
It's a very Asian shirt.
Very Asian shirt. This is what I was wearing. This is the shirt I was wearing last year. Hilarious. When I met Nicole. So yes, did know Nicole a little bit, and I was just going to say that I really resonated with a lot of the feelings that she described having when she came back from Korea and like going through this process. And it was interesting to be able to ask her questions from like what she thought before and having now gone to Korea, come back, and having moved a little bit further in her journey, like where she's at with all of that same stuff. So I think that was my favorite part of the conversation, or the part that I really remember the most was just those feelings that she's talking about and that process that she's been on.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like she had some good takeaways, some good things to do when you're in Korea. If you go back to your country of origin for the first time and do have those good feels, obviously not every adoptee does, but if you do have those good feels, like, take like a recording or something like that, like she just had like little tips and tricks that I thought were really fantastic. And she talked to about like just the way that she moves through the world and wants to be a giver and someone who supports community and supports relationships and things. And so, yeah, it was a really, really fantastic interview, and we can't wait to share it with you. So, Patrick, roll that tape.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show interview time. We are here with another wonderful guest, and it is that time for the interview. Nicolle Beaury, thank you so much for joining us. I know I probably said that we were starting the interview 3-4 times there, but
you got it in again right there.
I know. Yeah. This is why you don't let me lead. So,
well, I'm glad that I did. Nicolle, how are you doing?
Consistency is what matters, So.
This makes it interesting.
I'm good. How are you guys?
Great.
Doing
all
great.
Right. Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on some East Coast time here.
Yeah, no problem.
As you may have heard our show, the way we start all of our shows is essentially allowing you to tell us your story as little or as much as you'd like to tell us. And the mic is yours.
Sure. So I was adopted when I was 6 months old. From what I can tell, I was born in Busan. I'm not sure if that's exactly where I'm from. Like most of us went, no, but my parents were in upstate New York. So my friend Amanda, in growing up, her parents adopted her older brother, Chris. And then he was 4 years older than us. Then they were going through the process of adopting me. And they helped my parents adopt me, like go through the paperwork. And then 4 years later, was my brother, Jason. So like we've had a nice we represented like the entire Korean population of my like school district for a while. So that was fun.
Wow.
And then, I don't know. I feel like I've always known I was adopted. Like I never had I know listening to some of the episodes, like some people are like, oh yeah, and then somebody told me, but like I always knew. So that wasn't like a hidden secret by any means, but upstate New York, like I'm outside of Albany. So not the city, not a huge K town like everybody else tends to think when I say New York. They're like, oh cool, it's so fun, pizza, Apple.
Like, no, not that part.
Yeah, like not that part. Go up further with the cows. And like, it's fascinating when everybody talks about New York. Like, cities here, and like they're like, oh, Westchester's upstate, Hudson Valley's upstate. I'm like, yeah, keep going a couple hours. that's my area.
It goes further.
Yeah. So that was good. I went to college in Connecticut, and like I went to a university that was like relatively not diverse. And like going back there, and in hindsight, I wish that was something I thought about at the time, but you're like 17 years old looking at schools, and you're just like, that's pretty campus, that's cool. So
you were like, huh, that's what a WASP is. Okay.
Yeah, no, literally, like I was like, I don't know what a WASP means. And like the university I went to was like a little bit more it was just a little bit different than what I was brought up to. But I remember like my first class freshman year, somebody was like talking about what we did for our 16th birthday, and I was like, oh, my mom took me to like the DMV. Like, isn't that what you do? So he's like, no, I got a nose job. And I'm like, okay, we're in very different lifestyles, like very different lifestyles.
What do you mean you summer places? I don't understand. We'd go on vacation. What do you mean you summer places?
What is your second house? Like,
why do you wear so many scarves around your, like, tying the knit sweaters? Stop
Are your
it.
parents divorced? Is that how you have a second house? Oh, you mean you guys own another house? Cool. So.
Oh, and there's a lake there. Incredible.
Yeah. And I lived in Connecticut for a while. Then I moved back to upstate New York just to be back with my family. My grandfather and my aunt had been in a nursing home, and I was driving home all the time to see them. And I was like, I might as well just move back home instead of like driving every weekend. But I don't know what that has to do with my adoptee journey. I went on a little tangent there, but
hey, that's what this show is. It's
your
literally the show
story,
of tangents. Yeah, and it's your story. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to go back to kind of the beginning. You talked about how you'd always known that you were adopted. And you wrote in your guest form, and I'm not going to assume that you wrote this very recently. I'm going to assume that it came a long time ago. But you wrote that you remember understanding racism was real as a toddler. I was wondering if you could elaborate a little bit on that and share if you don't.
Yeah. So like I actually talked about this. We had like a Stop Asian Hate rally obviously after Atlanta, and I spoke at that, which was like really, I don't know why I do these things. Like I'm actually a very inherently shy, introverted person. So I'm like, yeah, let me speak at a rally. Let me sign up to be on a podcast. Like whatever.
I feel that. I get that.
I'm like, all right, here I am. But I remember like our local town beach, and like my dad works at the town, and like my mom's like, you know, it's a very small town, like people know each other. But I remember being on the beach, and I was like, must have been, I can't remember how old I was, but like one of the first things I remember is a kid came up to me and was like, oh, like, and like, you know, made the Asian accent kind of thing and was like, why is your face like that? And I was so little at the time though, and like, you know, the parents are parents, and like the kids were like, oh, that's so cute. And like, you know, at this day and age, people probably wouldn't laugh at it, but then it was just like accepted. And then I was like, oh, I know I look different than everybody else, so there's something different about me. And that was just so formative for so many parts of my life. And like, you know, I think we all still go through it and just like doubting ourselves or like feeling like an imposter a little bit. And it was just interesting. I knew that it was because I looked differently, and there's nothing that I could do to like change how I look unless I became a millionaire and like got plastic surgery. But here we are. So.
Did that, like you said, it was foundational and really formative, obviously, at that point in time. How did that change as you got even just a little bit older? Was that something that you put on the back burner, or was it something that you were like cognizant of even as you continued to grow older?
It was probably something I was still cognizant of. Like, I have a very self-deprecating sense of humor, and I know that about myself. Like, but I'll always be the first person to make fun of myself, so nobody else can make fun of me. And I know it's like to the point that it's like a fault, but I think it's very common for adoptees to kind of do that, or, you know, not just adoptees, but anybody that's like being minoritized. Yeah. So that was there, and I still remember like. You know, like just like, you know, those visionettes they make you do in school where like they trace your outline of your face, and like it was a side profile picture, like the black, like they put the light. I like hated that because I'm like, well, I know I have a flat face, and that's what people told me when I was little, so I would never do that, and I would like opt out of that project. Or like doing a family tree, it's like, well, is that my family tree or like my mom's family tree? But like it's not actually my family tree, and it's like a weird thing. Or like even doing like the ABB like in genetics when you're going through like high school biology, like all those things. So I know I was always cognizant of it because I'd always hesitate about like doing those kinds of projects.
It's so interesting to hear you say that because, and I've heard other people say that as well, other adoptees, and I like never did that. I never stopped to question it. Like, I think about all those family tree activities or the genetic stuff, like you just saying that now, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember doing that. And never, I was just being like, oh yeah, this is like my DNA with my parents. And even though I knew I was adopted, even though I had that story, for some reason I was just like, oh, here's what I'm going to do. And I look back at those things and I'm like, man, you internalized your surroundings and whiteness so hard, like that you were just like okay with it, even though it was not okay ever, like as that was happening. Just like, I don't know, it's just, I hear those things and I'm like, man, I wished I even had that little bit of cognizance, because I don't know how different my life could have been had I just even been slightly more aware. So
that's like one of those things though, like when you're talking, I was doing a project and it was like asking people what advice they'd give to their younger selves. And, you know, when you're listening to other people do it, and I was like, man, if I just had like, if I could go back and talk to my younger self and tell myself to own everything that makes me weird, I would be like so much happier. But instead, like when I was having that like thought process that you're talking about, Patrick, like I literally would just be like, oh, so let me hide this away from myself. And I think that was like so detrimental to like a lot of my like foundational things. I don't know. I'm not a psychiatrist, so.
Yeah. That's why I love that book, Eyes That Kiss in the Corner. I read that to my daughter.
Oh my God, I sobbed when I saw that in Target. This is so embarrassing. I like literally I was in Target and I was like having a day and I was buying my friend like a baby shower book or something. And I saw that this book was at Target and I just started crying in the middle of the store. And like, I'm not a big, like I cry a lot during like movies, but like life events, like I usually don't get too upset, but I was like in the middle of Target, like, this is so beautiful. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed right now. like I think, you know, I've got like a thing of like popcorn or something like that. I'm holding some like t-shirts from Target, just sobbing in the middle of the aisle. And I was like, this is cool.
I mean, it's funny. I mean, people don't understand that there's so many triggers too that just we would never realize, I think. Even I mean, as a child, I never realized certain things until later when I started talking about it, started hearing about it, started listening to, you know, podcasts about it and stuff. And those when I started being aware of things like that, it just I don't know. For some reason, those certain triggers now I am aware of. I look for. They don't they don't affect me as much anymore, which I think is great. But when you see them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's a new one. I was like, I wonder how I would have reacted to that, like when I was in high school, or when I was, still in the fog, or when I just would have made a joke about it, or I would have moved on.
So one of the things that we ask on our forums that is mostly just for us, but I always really like reading it, and I like your answer is, how did you hear about the show? And you were like, I think I literally just Googled Korean podcasts, which is really awesome. But I'm curious, what was I was like, oh, hooray. What was your awakening moment in terms of Asianness and adoption? I know that you said that you had some core memories essentially when you were younger, but what was the thing that led you to be like, I need more podcasts from a different perspective, from my perspective, maybe?
This is okay. So I don't even know. I went down this is awful. I listened to the true crime podcast, and I feel some sort of way. And I'm judging myself.
We are a true crime podcast, so that makes sense. Yeah.
No, but I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be consuming this as a good person, but also I think of it as a form of self-defense, where I'm like if my husband's not home, I'm putting bars in the windows, and he bought me a t-shirt that said Neighborhood Watch, because I'm always watching, I have windows right in front of me, and I'm like, oh my God. But I actually called in a fire the other day, though. I was like, okay. I am prepared for Neighborhood Watch. But anyway,
did you have your Neighborhood Watch shirt on?
I should have. I really should have.
Serve it.
I was like, the guy's like, I'm like, I'm sure a bunch of people called this in. He's like, no, you're the first person. I'm like, I'm successful as Neighborhood Watch. But I was like, all right, maybe you should expand your listening into something a little less gruesome. So I was like, oh, let's listen about some Korean things. And then, I was just listening. I saw that. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And then I started listening to your podcast. So I don't know when I definitely started. I don't know. I don't really know when I got into my Koreanness. It's just, I feel is a gradual. I'd been kind of, I do a lot of sharing stuff sometimes on my Facebook, or Instagram or whatever, to people, because I don't know if it's something that people think about all the time. So when I was seeing an increase in Asian hate crimes, and this was before Trump, this was going years back,
just living in upstate New York, basically.
I just wanted to share information, though, so people can consume it, because I want people the ability to have the information to make their own choices and thoughts and feelings about it. So, while I think we can say that we don't want anybody to be racist, if you feel one way or another about a certain topic, that's kind of up to you to make the judgment. So I don't want to tell them exactly how they feel, but I like to base a lot of it in facts, so people can make an informed decision on their own accord. We're never going to agree. We shouldn't all agree on everything, but that's where I started really delving into it. And then I guess I realized growing up, I didn't know much about Korean history, or just different aspects of what it means to be Korean. So that's where I started kind of digging into it more and trying to find more alternative sources for it. I'm 36. So when I was younger, the internet, I grew up with the internet. I was a freshman when Facebook was created. So I didn't have all the resources that some people had, and so it's kind of cool to see people do these things. Nathan, you're definitely the youngest here. I don't know what you're saying.
The interweb.
But just stuff like that. I don't know. I don't really have a defined date, I guess, or thing that sparked it. But.
Yeah. Yeah, we joked about it a little bit, when you went to college and you were like, oh, white people.
Yeah.
More, and also a specific kind of white people. But for so many people, that can be the time, because for some, it's either because it's the first time they've been around other people of color, or it's just the first time that they're really out of their parents' shadow. And I think that especially for transracial adoptees, the shadow of your parents can really go a long way in terms of preserving kind of your headspace. I was just kind of curious, what led you to think about that, to be engaged in, whether it was Koreanness, Asian Americanness, adoptee-ness, whatever, that kind of stuff. So, but I also really love hearing that it was I don't know, it's just kind of always been a slow burning thing, because that's how it was for me for a long time. So I totally get that.
It's just I don't know, I always had, I know it's probably something that was planted in my head because I did see the picture, but I have a memory of being in a crib as a baby in the foster home. I know that's not true. I know my mind probably created it, but I always saw a Winnie the Pooh on the wall and stuff like that. And like, it was like, it looked different. Like it wasn't like an Americanized version, but I actually like in my foster family photo, there's like Winnie the Pooh on the wall. And I'm like, so I either saw that somewhere or like, I just like made that scenario up. But like, I always wonder, like, when you have an image in your head and you don't know why it's there, like, I think that helps ground it. So I realized that babies at like 6 months old don't like see colors and shape. I don't really know. I don't have kids, so I don't know what kids do, but kids do kid things. And I'm sure at that age you don't actually retain that information, but like I have the image in my head. So
yeah.
Do you feel like your journey to exploring like your Asian American Korean identities and then your adoptee identities and then any other identities that you might inhabit or hold, do you feel like that's all happening concurrently? Or do you feel like it's like, for me, when I started, it was, oh, I want to learn about being Korean. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, I got to learn about being adopted. And then it was like, well, now I want to just broadly do Asian American stuff. And then I kind of finally figured out how to move through all of those things together, whether it be at the same time or one or the other. Do you feel like that you've been exploring those things kind of at the same time, or does it like one comes, one goes situation?
So the adoptee aspect of it, I have been trying, or I was like start searching for my family and like some history. And that I would say is a separate arm of it than just being adopted, which I mean is obviously part of being adopted, but like that it's just a separate journey in self. You can discover about what it's like to be adoptee without doing the birth search aspect, right?
Mm-hmm.
I've really tried to, for my own like mental health, I've been trying to flip the script on what I consider to be a Korean American adoptee. I try not to. I first and foremost, I think I've said this to you before, Patrick, like I am Korean.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that that's what we are. We're 200,000 adoptees across, the world. So I like to think of us as like a little invisible island that we all lived on. So like if you can be Korean and from Jeju, why can't we be Korean and adopted? So like I don't like to say that I'm Korean, but oh no, I'm adopted. I think it's important to say that, we are a part of history. There was colonization and like historical things that impacted how we got to this place. So that's what I try to focus on instead, and like see how all the other implications of war and just different ideologies impacted us. So like, I don't know, I've been very active in saying that I'm Korean. And then if people ask me like, oh yes, I am adopted too, but it's not like just because we were adopted and we don't know like the language does not mean that we're not Korean. We're literally a part of the Korean history. Like the whole thing, like you were saying, KJ, about like Han, like I feel like this is a part of it. Like that's part of the history where, we were taken away from our homes. So that's my own little, I'll get off my little step stool there, but.
No, I love that.
Great.
I love my favorite definition of Han that I ever heard was from a Korea Society podcast. Professor Peter Shin, I believe, he said he defined Han as a loss of identity, because Korea as a country literally has been split in two. So it doesn't have this whole identity. It hasn't for a long time. And everyone that's been born in Korea since that time has like had this foundational loss of identity at their core. And when I heard that, I'm like, holy shit, that is like this experience of being an adoptee, of being removed from here and losing that identity, losing specifically that cultural and ethnic identity. And so, yeah, I love what you say about it. Like, we are for sure Korean. We're Korean enough. We always have been. And we are a part of that history. I think naming that specifically is really important. Like, part of the history, because we don't talk about that history too often. It's because it's seen as like a blemish or whatever it might be. Yeah,
and it's been really good for me as a person to say it that way. I was like joking with I forget who I was talking to, but I was like, oh yeah, like, like I love the Olympics. It's like one of my weird things that I'm like obsessed with.
You and like the rest of the world.
I'm like, no, like I'm like all into it. Like my husband was like not super into it. And I'm like, no, we watch it every hour. Like it's on at 2 a.m. And he's like, oh, okay. But you know how like they have like the Olympic team for a country? I'm like, that's what adoptees are. We're like our own Korean, we're not part of the national team because we don't live there, but like we've got our own like little flag that we do by ourselves. So
I think it's so powerful too to hear like what does it look like for us to start defining ourselves from a place of plenty instead of from a place of other, or a place of less than, and a place like it's so easy to be like, well, I'm Korean, but, which is immediately like negatory, like you are immediately detracting from yourself. I'm like, actually, this is the wholeness of myself is I'm Korean and and I think that's really powerful. So I love the idea of flipping the script and seeing as you say that more often, how that changes how you think about yourself, how you hold yourself, how you are comfortable in your own skin, which I think is really wonderful.
Yeah, I'm going to stop saying but, because I've done that in the past where I said I'm Korean, but I'm adopted. So I like thinking of the way that you said it is Korean and I'm adopted. So I'm going to change that. I'm going to change that. Mark my words from now on. And anyone ever asks me,
boom,
now is the point.
You heard it here first, folks.
Incredible.
So, speaking of Korea and exploration, you recently made a trip to Korea, correct?
Yeah, we went in December, right after Christmas, if you celebrate Christmas, and then throughout New Year's, which was really cool. So we did Seoul, down to Jeju, and then Busan, which is where, again, I was allegedly adopted from. So that was awesome. Really loved it. I miss the food every day.
Did you when did you start getting into Korean food? Was this I'm comparing the Korean food, and I don't know how it is in New York to being there. I know it's more authentic, of course, tastes so much better when you're actually there, but did you like a lot of Korean food in New York too?
Yeah, but I feel like there's like more there's a lot. I love soups, and like
yes.
it's like very Korean to love soup apparently, but like there's so many options for soup, and like here you don't get as many, or
Right.
like we've got a great restaurant by us that has like smaller dishes, but like you're not going to get the breadth of the options that you have there, and just seeing like the specialties, like there in Jeju there's a soup, it's like gogi-guksu, which is literally like a pork soup that's only made in Jeju, and when I don't even know how much of it I ate. It was so good. I just kept plowing it down. I'm like, I couldn't possibly eat anymore, but yeah, bring some more over. So
That sounds great.
yeah, and soju and beer were a lot cheaper, so like that too.
Much
it wasn't an
cheaper.
import. Yeah. That's funny. Who did you go with, and what, besides it being where you were born, what like made you decide to go back to Korea?
So like I love when people are like, "Oh, have you gone back to Korea yet?" Like it's a cheap thing, right? Like we're allowed
like it's
to
like
go
so
back.
casual. Like,
And
no,
I
have you been to Korea?
Yeah, and I'm like, the flights are so expensive. Like it's wild. So this is my first time back. I went with my husband. I thought about doing an adoptee trip, but then I decided to not do that for my first trip there because I want it to really resonate with what Korea meant to me and how I felt there without other people's outside impact on it. So I know other people like doing that. I just was like, sometimes too, when I get overwhelmed, I just want to be like, okay, I'm just going to go like stand in the corner. And I didn't want other people to like feel like responsible for me when I was doing that. But I joined Goal. So I don't know if you guys know about Goal, but like that's a wonderful program. And I talked to some of the people there about like trying to find my family. That's like the most depressing process in the entire world, I feel like, and frustrating too. So, but yeah, we really liked it. It was, I don't know if you guys experience this, but like at some point, like every once in a while, like again, I'm not a big crier. My husband's like not used to seeing me cry ever. We've been together like 7 years, and like I just started having a meltdown. He's like, "Are you okay?" And like I don't cry like aggressively. I just like, I know I'm saying all these times I cried, but I guess that's what happens to adoptee. But yeah, he was like, you just have like a tear running down your face. And then you're like, okay, I'm good. He's like, it's so weird to see you cry though, because I don't do it very often, but just the very mundane things is what got me. I was sitting on the subway and like, it was all Korean people. And I'm like, man, like, would I have hated myself less growing up if I was surrounded by people that looked like me and saw all these different versions of like beautiful people that like just have different features than what I'm used to seeing, and like had racial mirrors. So that was interesting. And like, we went to Jeju and did like the sunrise thing, like for New Year's Eve, like they go and see the sunrise.
Like for the turning of the new year?
Yeah. So like, and like, I guess it's a tradition. I don't know. We just decided, I was like, I think it's a tradition, so we're going to go. And we found this beach and it was beautiful. And we like scouted out I'm a planner. So like the day before, like we scouted out the location to see how far away it is and whatever. So, but we came running around the corner because I'm like, oh, we're like cutting it a little bit close. Like I think the sun's coming up. And all of a sudden there was just like a crowd of like 200 Koreans. And that was so overwhelming to me, but to be doing like a Korean activity with like my people. I just started crying hysterically again. And again, I swear I don't cry a lot. I know I'm just crying all the time. But it was just so like powerful and like I just felt like home to me. And I don't know how to explain that to somebody that's not adopted, because they always feel at home. I feel like, when you're like at home and in your house, but like being in the country, I was like, no, this feels very like at peace with my soul. So
it's like growing up or going back to a childhood home, I feel like is like the closest similarity, except you have no memory of it. You have, well, I mean, maybe it depends on how old you were when you were adopted, but like, so you have little to no memory of the place and really anything about it, but your body knows and your body remembers. And I think that like, yeah, one of my friends, she was like, I don't know, just sitting on a bench in Jeju just like feeds me, because Korea sees me in ways that I've never been seen before. And so I think it's incredible that you got to experience that. That's really fantastic.
Well, I think there's like a spiritual familiarity, because I think a lot of people just assume that, like, if you're a person, specifically like a person with a global majority, and you're here in America, like you can just go back to wherever that your ethnic or racial place comes from, community is from, country of origin. Sorry, I don't know why I was having so much trouble thinking of that. You can just go back to your country of origin. It's just like, okay, you can just do that. And like you said at the very beginning, it's expensive to like go travel outside of this country and to go to these places. And the opportunity to do that all the time is very limited to like a very select few people who have the access, the time, the resources to be able to execute something like that, and then do it in a way that's literally can be meaningful for how you want to do it. I've been talking about my first trip back to Korea a lot, leading up to the second trip going to Ica. And I've been telling people, the first time I went with a program. And unfortunately, it was really short. And being in Korea was great because I felt like that spiritual familiarity and like my soul, like this is home for me. But like the program itself, it felt like I was on a school trip. Like it wasn't on my own terms. It wasn't like my trip to go back. And so like, I'm really treating this time as almost like my first time back, like to really be able to experience the country in a way that you just can't when you're on a trip like that, when everything's plotted out for you, when you don't even have time to process or even like shed the tears that like I would wanted to have shed while I was over there, because it's just like so structured and so rigid. And so I really appreciate you sharing that hey, I'm super emotional. I cry all the time. I cry a lot in movies, and I'll just cry about something on the side of the street if I see it and it makes me emotional enough. But like being in Korea did give me like that spiritual, like that's where that emotion was coming from, because it felt like that loss of identity that Han was getting replaced kind of by like, I don't know if Jung is like replacing that as like something like the opposite antithesis of it. I don't think it is. They're two separate concepts. But anyways, like it just made me feel whole in a way that I don't think is possible to experience if you're not adopted, and one if like you really aren't able to access the opportunity to go back. Like I think even just like we've talked to some adoptees who have stepped foot in the country and didn't feel that way. Mm-hmm. And like they have a really antagonistic relationship with the country, and I totally understand that. Like if that's your experience, 100% valid. And I think that there's got to be ways that we can make it more accessible. And I feel like you have been doing, just from my following of you, like a lot of your work is based in like community care and like helping other people find, either empowering them to do whatever it is that they want to do, or I don't know, just whatever it is, like just helping people move along in their careers and their journeys, whatever it might be. Can you talk a little bit about how your personal journey has intertwined with your work or vice versa?
Yeah. So backstory, but like I always wonder about nature versus nurture, and I'm sure like you guys do too. Like, and I 100% know that there's things about me that are my nature, but then there's certain things like my mom is one of the most giving, community-minded, focused people in the world. Like if somebody, like her friend needed to like go to the hospital, and she like brought her every day for like treatments and stuff like that. And I was like, oh mom, that's a lot. And she's like, well, why wouldn't you do that? Like she doesn't have she doesn't have a lens where you're not doing the right thing for somebody. And I think that's like so wonderful. So she's really like imparted that onto us growing up. But with that being said, I think I'm a part of a fellowship right now, and we were just doing like our assessments, and like that was like one of my grounding things about my personality, I guess, is that I really like giving back to the community. So if I'm not tied to something and I don't feel like it's helping me create a better place for either my, like, not, I don't even care if it creates better, it's like nice if it creates a better place for myself, but if like it helps other people, then like I feel like I'm doing what I should be doing. And I've had like I plan events. I'm an events director for a living. I've done other things too, like project management, but that's really like, I like to create spaces for people to kind of come together, share ideas. And if I can't do something, like I hope I'm connecting two people so they can make something happen for the greater good. And I just think that's like a really cool job to have. With that being said, I quit my job. So I'm currently a lady of leisure, and I'm making the world a better place by, walking my dogs around the neighborhood every day. But,
one dog walking at a time.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I'm a lady who lunches.
Fire reporting at a time.
One neighborhood watch success
Yeah.
story at a time.
Start a professional neighborhood watch program.
I should. I'm going to brand it.
Start a league.
Yeah.
A league. I don't think that's how that works.
Could be.
We'll try it.
So what's next for you personally as you like continue to engage with the community? Like, what are you hoping to do from an adoptee standpoint? And I guess and a follow-up aside would be, what are you hoping to do from like a Korean American standpoint?
I don't know. I feel like my big thing is just like, again, like owning my Koreanness right now. And that's what I'm hoping to impart. I like got into a fellowship for the Council of Korean Americans, their NetCal program. So it's like the next generation of Korean American leaders. We're working on like community projects for there. And that's been really cool to hear other people's experiences about being Korean, and like you're actively talking about it. I sometimes volunteer with Gold House too. So I like really just like to volunteer for all this unpaid labor. But I don't know. I just try to do whatever I can to like help people with whatever my skill set is. Like I'm working with a nonprofit here locally that's like a BIPOC LGBTQ plus organization, and they need help with like their July fundraiser. So that's my skill set. That's what I'm trying to do. So I don't know. I know I cannot solve the world's problems, but I can at least lend my skill set to whatever causes I'm passionate about.
Yeah, absolutely. How is this might be related to this but now that you've been back from Korea for, I guess, what is it, 6 months now? How much of that trip has like continues to sit with you 6 months on in a way?
I think about it every day. Like, is that weird? Like, I don't know. I just like every day.
Not weird at all.
Yeah. But like, if you had to like think about like one or two big, maybe that's like presumptive of me, but like one or two big things that like, when you think about Korea, when you think about like who you are now, what sits with you from that trip in terms of shaping what you do these days?
It was very just peaceful sitting on the beach in Busan every morning for me. So like my husband would go to the gym, good for him. And I would like take beach walks and just like sit on the beach and like sit in my thoughts. And that was just like so calming to me. So like I almost think of that as like a centering time for myself now when I want to reflect on it. I actually like taped the beach one day, so when I need a moment to calm down, I can just like watch that video and it just brings me back, which I think like good for me for having that foresight.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And then I've gone through the process where they like have sent letters to my parents, my biological parents, about like reaching out. My letters got rejected. That was like a whole other process where like that hits you in a way that like I don't think people can understand like the pain unless they are adopted. But they didn't want to respond to my letters. I actually didn't even tell anybody about it, the process, or that I got that back from them for like a while. I didn't even tell my husband. He was just like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "I don't want to talk about it, so let me be." Because I want to sit with that. And then I guess I got like a vague definition of where in Busan my family is, and I guess they still reside there. So we went there, and I actually thought that's where I was going to cry. I was really good. I just ate just stress ate a bunch of candy the entire time we were walking around.
Like soup.
Yeah, I was like, "You just give me food." Like there was like these little gummy bears, and I ate like the entire bag, and and I was like, "We have to leave." But I was like, for me, that was very, it was very stressful because I kept looking at everybody's face and being, I just saw a post on Instagram, somebody being like, are you my father? Like, I literally, every man, I'm like, would I have married you? Are you my dad? Are you my uncle? Are you my neighbor? Are you my mom? Are you my sister? And like, I literally was like, I'm like, I have to get out of this town right now because it's super overwhelming. And I always look for, I actually haven't found somebody that I feel like looks like me, even though everybody, you know, everybody always says we all look the same. I don't feel like I've seen somebody that matches my features necessarily. So like I was kind of looking for that in that area and I didn't find it. So I think I've just come to terms with the fact that I'm solo dolo and this is what I look like. So that is another thing. And I don't know if that's like a positive feedback from it, but it's just like me coming to terms with the fact that I like probably won't ever have any answers, but at least I could kind of see where I was from. So.
Yeah. Well, and I think that that's so important too, because it's common in like large scale en masse stories to hear stories of reunion and all those kinds of things. And yet, like, we know that statistically, that's just not the case for so many people who decide to go on that search. And I think that they're like, what's maybe the more important story is to say like, all right, so you received a rejection letter. You found out that your birth parents have passed. You have like found like whatever it is, like there are so many different points of complexity to Korean adoptee stories. And like, how do you deal with the fallout of that? And especially like in situations like for those of us on the show, be like, all right, so we have a spouse who is not adopted. And if we go on that search and we get the bad news, how do you deal with that with your spouse? It's obviously like, I married you so I could share everything in my life about you. And I can't deal with that yet. And it's not at all like that part of that relationship or, you know, those kinds of things. And so I think that, yeah, just that idea of how do you get to the place of living in that gray space of I hope and I may never know. And so it's like I don't actively think about the hope. And I, you know, like just that, it's just that weird of like, yeah, maybe giving up, still holding out hope. I don't know, you know, and just sitting in that and being okay sitting in that, I think is really important too. And I think that to have the beach in Busan as a key takeaway, and also I think just the stress of Busan as another key takeaway. Like we're made by all of those things, and so yeah, thank you for sharing that.
It's I actually had a conversation with my husband too, so like we have very like the love languages. Like he's like definitely more like affectionate and like will tell me things where like I was like, when I'm going to be really stressed out, I'm going to retreat into myself, and you just have to know that's not you, and you're going to have to let me be like that. And I'm like, I'm not trying to be selfish, but like I have to be selfish on this trip, so you have to give me the space to I mean, like that's why he let me like not let me go, like let me do things.
That's why he went to work out.
He went to the gym though. He was like, because you could see, like we stayed on a really the Paradise Hotel in Busan. Like it's right on the beach. You literally walk out the door.
Oh yeah,
on the
I know
beach.
what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like beautiful. But I was using my hotel reward points for like a couple other stays. So I'm like, you know what? Like basically this is like if we like get a bougier hotel that and like use my points for other ones, like it kind of evens out to our trip budget. Which it was definitely worth it because they have a wonderful spa. But he could see me from the like, you know, I wasn't getting like abducted because you know my true crime podcast, but he could see kind of where I was, and he was like, I'm just watching you like picking up shells on the beach and like just having the time of your life with like the old men. I don't know if you guys have seen this like in Korea, but like they were just screaming at the beach every morning. And we couldn't tell if they were like happy or joyous or like upset, but it was just like, I'm like, yeah, that's what I aspire to.
Interesting.
Old men were screaming at the beach.
Yeah, I think they were just like greeting the ocean, like literally like yelling at the ocean. And I was like, that seems so cathartic.
That's what I was just thinking. I'm like, I kind of love that. I'm like, I need to be doing that.
Were they in tracksuits or did they look like
they actually 100% were in tracksuits.
Right,
and I was like, this really makes my day. So
maybe he was angry.
Very interesting.
I need to go there now and have someone translate what they were saying.
I know. They were like too far. I think I like my Korean's like really bad, but I feel like I could have picked up on like one or two things, but they were like kind of far down the beach. I was like, I'm not going to get in your screaming way because
like you've got an orbit that I don't need to cross into.
I need to understand this practice and then go participate in it.
That's what I was like. My husband's like, next time we go back, you're definitely going to be screaming at the water. I'm like, yeah, I wish
like,
I
got to get my screaming tracksuit on.
I am 100%
like Eddie Murphy yelling out the window in New York. Good morning.
Nathan.
Oh,
Sorry.
good for them.
Man.
No, it was really cool though to just go and see it and like watch people. If you guys go though too, I highly recommend going between like Christmas and New Year. Things were like empty in Busan. Like it was so like nobody was on the beach in the morning. I was like, this is amazing. So I also really don't like the heat. So like my friend
So
is
the cold was
volunteering.
doing it for you?
Yeah. Like my friend's volunteering for ICA and she's like, why don't you come from it? I'm like, I think I would die in the summer. So bless you, Patrick.
Oh yeah. Like
Good luck.
I sweat when it's like 1% humidity. So I'm about to be just covered in sweat.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Like, give me all the kimchi jjigae. I'm about to fight so much fire.
Give me all the,
with so much fire.
Give me all of the jjigae for sure.
Give me that good soup.
I need the good soup. That's for sure.
Buy some good Korean athletic wear.
Yeah. I don't know if I have a question. I just wanted to say and just affirm kind of what you were saying about these feelings. Because we talked about a couple different things that adoptees would be uniquely resonate uniquely with. And I feel like that's the importance of the community specifically. And for people who might be listening to the show who are on their journey, wherever you're at, and just feeling I know this journey is very individual and can feel very isolating and alone. I just wanted to say, like, those feelings that you have are shared and that you have this community here whenever you're ready for it, whenever you need it, whenever you're ready. I think and I wish that I just had that out in the airwaves in the 90s, in the early aughts when I was growing up. Because I just needed to know, like, oh, okay, it's going to be okay. Like you talked about, if I could go back and tell my younger self, give him some advice, that would be it. And I bet my younger self would be like, get out of here. Like, we're all good. We've internalized really, really fine. So, but yeah, I just wanted to say that because I just feel like I'm resonating with a lot of especially those feelings that you had, like going back or like throughout your journey of identity and things like that, just really resonating with that, wanting to just push that out a little bit further to the people who are listening and anybody who might eventually listen. It's June 2023 right now. If you're listening in June 2033, I don't know why I went 1,000 years ahead. I meant to go 10, but I went 1,000.
You're forward thinking. You're forward thinking.
If you're in the new millennium.
Sorry, I just wanted to say that. I don't know, just caught up in my brain and I wanted to get it out there. So thank you for sharing these things. Yeah.
You also said the early aughts, which is something I've never heard anyone say.
What? So. I say that all the time.
You do? Wow.
Yeah.
It must be
like
a younger thing.
It's like a
younger thing.
I think of it because I love The Music Man, the musical, and he's like, I graduated from Indiana University, class of 05 or whatever. But he's like talking about like 1905. So
yeah,
it's casual.
I don't know.
I like that. I like that.
How old you guys are, but I will say this. I have now accepted that I'm like old in the fact that like my old coworker had to like translate TikTok to me. And I'm like, what does this
you passed
mean?
like that, like cultural.
Yeah. I'm like not cool
you're
anymore.
on the other side of the cultural fence.
So this one kid I work with, he's like 10 years younger than me. And he's the sweetest kid. And we're like on Microsoft Teams and he messaged me something. And I was like, oh, could you send me this, this, and this? And he goes, say less. And I was like, oh, that's so rude. And I'm like sitting there and I'm like, what is like, am I talking too much? And I was like panicked about it. And I'm like, hey, what does that mean? And he's like, oh, that's like, say no more. And I'm like, oh, good, cool. And or somebody else said something about Riz. And I'm like, I don't know what Riz is. I'm going to be honest. So I Googled it and it's like the plural of rice. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's not it. So I text him and he's like, oh, it's short for charisma. And I'm like, cool. I'm so glad that like
the plural of rice.
I've entered this stage of life where now I'm like the old.
That's the nice thing about having a partner who's a teacher of middle school kids, because you just stay up to date on all of it.
On all the lingo. Yeah. I remember when I graduated college, I was like, oh yeah, Urban Dictionary, just in case. Yeah, just in case. But at this point in my life, I'm like, I don't even care. I'm just
There's like too many things on it though.
Yeah, everything has like 30 definitions. I'm like, I don't know which one's the real one.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what's cool.
Yeah, that's how I know I'm past fence number 2. Is I just stopped caring at this point in my life.
Yeah, so I stopped looking it up. I'm just gonna nod.
Yeah,
but then I'm gonna take little things that I like and maybe try to use them. And if I feel foolish when I say it, then I won't use it again.
Bet.
Great.
Nathan's over here like, no cap.
No cap.
Great. Con's going to be a great time.
It's funny. I wanted to ask you, Nicole, about something else that you wrote on your form, which I realized you filled out your form. Yeah, you filled out your form a while ago, so this may have changed. And if it has changed, we'll just cut it out, and this will never happen. But you wrote in terms of, is there a particular moment in where you've related to these topics? Understanding my fear of rejection and adjusting accordingly has been a personal accomplishment. Do you still feel that is true? And can you share your win, I guess?
So I think it's like super severe for not all adoptees, but a lot of adoptees, right? About like you always, I think it's given me a lot of good, I don't know, I like to always look on the like silver lining of things, but like it's given me the skill set to like always observe my surroundings. I'm pretty good at like adapting to different situations. I'm good at reading people. And I think that's an adoptee skill. Like there's studies about it saying that's true. So I know I'm not just like bullshitting here. I'm allowed to swear.
Oh yeah, go nuts.
Okay, because I curse a lot.
Maybe not.
I'll keep it PG.
I don't care.
But one of the things I know I do a lot is I'm like, oh my God, like that person like didn't text me back. Like they must hate me. What did I do wrong? And like I would sit and obsess about it for days and just feel so awful about it. And then I think it also comes with age and you're like traveling and seeing the world. Like other people have other issues going on. So sometimes like, oh, hey, maybe like so-and-so is just really busy at work and that's why they didn't text back. So like I still have those thoughts, but it's like the process that I put through to say like, is so-and-so not responding to me because they're really busy, or do you actually do something wrong? So like just talking yourself through that process versus like an automatic, because everybody's going to have their gut reaction to everything, right? You're going to automatically think that you did something like in a certain way, and just taking the like time to sit and think about if it was me or it's an external factor. And I think that's really helped me to be like, oh yeah, like we're good versus like panicking all the time. So
yeah, absolutely. I think it's like, it is really difficult, especially like when you still have those gut reactions, to be like, no, I mean, yes, but also breathe and then move through and realize that maybe they're just taking a nap. And that's why you haven't heard from them in 5 hours. You're like, it's all fine.
It's a long nap.
Like the negative, the negative
nighttime
talk, try to just like take it out of my, it's okay to do it. It's just like recognizing that doesn't mean that it's reality, because what you're saying to yourself is not true. So
yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. The things I've come up with to like process my life is interesting, but
well, those things probably will help one person listening to this who have similar thoughts, and they're like, I'm trying to figure out different ways to process. Like, again, the beautiful part about community, people share, and you pick up on, like Nathan, pick up on little tidbits, and you try it out once, and if you feel embarrassed, you don't try it again.
Yeah, he's gonna stop saying but, and he's gonna start saying no cap.
I'm saying and no cap. No, see, I still feel weird when I say no cap.
I think you got it. I think you're pulling it off.
Yeah, dude. Bet.
Yeah.
My kids aren't old enough to be embarrassed by me yet, so yet.
I know that you're counting down the days. Nicole, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. It's been a real pleasure to listen to your brain and listen to your body and your feelings and all those kinds of things. I think that the diversity in stories we hear is a real privilege, and you are no exception. And I think, especially for Nathan and I both, to have an immediate personal takeaway to be like, you know what, I'm going to start considering my identity from a place of wholeness and completion instead of like and like saying and instead of but, I think is really powerful. And it is one of the reasons that we do the show, is so we can hear stories just like yours of people who have found their own wisdom, their own ways to cope, their own ways of moving through the world through this wonderful thing that we call being adopted. So thank you so much. And we're going to go to a break. And when we come back, we're jumping in with a drink, I think. Is that right?
You'll never
probably
know.
A
Yes.
drink. Yeah,
It's probably
I don't
a
know.
drink.
We'll find out in like a second. Anyways, here, just roll the tape.
Welcome back to the Janchi Show food portion. You'll notice that I am not Nathan, because he had to leave for the mountains. So Nathan is currently in the mountains, and we will see him later, but we are so happy to continue to be here with Nicole. Okay, I'm just joking. We've jumped a couple bit of time because we had to wait on this snack to arrive to Nicole's house.
So hopefully it was worth the wait.
Hopefully it was worth the wait. The conversation was definitely worth it, but we'll see if the snack was worth
Lives up to it.
extra week in time. So, Nicole, thank you so much for taking the time to join us again for this lovely treat.
Of course.
Okay, I don't have the package in front of me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Nicole, did Nathan send you a package, or did you just get like the stick?
I just got sticks.
Okay, cool. So this is the other downside of the way we do the show.
Yeah.
Now that Nathan buys all the snacks, he has the original box, and we're just left with whatever he sends us. And this time, we all got the same thing. So there's not really a lot to go off of. But we're drinking Adia Special Coffee, and it's a powdered coffee. Nicole, what's your experience with powdered coffees?
So I thought I was going to hate it, but I actually am really lazy and do not like cleaning out my French press. So when I am like, oh, I left my grounds in it from yesterday, then I tend to do these. But we don't have, I actually looked at the store. We don't have this brand by me. We have the Maxim Gold one.
That's the popularized one.
I'm trying to think. I think we might have done powdered like instant coffee before on the show, right?
We did one time a long time ago.
Maxim.
And it actually tasted pretty good. I remember.
What I appreciate about this is it's 6 p.m. my time, so I hope the caffeine content's not too high so I can be wired before I go to bed.
Well, that's what we discovered last time. It was like half the cup of coffee, like in one packet. So I feel like that's probably the same again. What we were talking about before we hopped on here is that I am going to be learning Hangul soon, but do not currently know it. So I don't know what I was reading on the package. I just poured it into my cup.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. So before we started recording, Nicole, I also heard you say like, I'm going to go get my hot water. Patrick was like, I've got boiling hot water ready to go. And apparently, actually, can you read Hangul?
Yes. I don't know. My vocabulary is that of like a 3-year-old. So
okay,
like,
but can you read this?
Yes, somewhat. So it's like idea, superficial. I don't know what that is, but that cool. Yeah. I don't know what these words are. That's fun.
So, okay. In Hangul, it's idea, which is the name of the brand, special cold blend, which is
supposed to be cold?
Yeah. Special cold blend.
Okay.
Which is just really funny. I was like, as the only person, since none of us got the packaging, and as the only person that can read Hangul, like y'all got that hot coffee and I got that cold coffee. So
all right.
I'm wondering if Nathan thought it was hot coffee as well. He didn't say. I don't feel like he said. That's
Here's
hilarious.
The other misstep. Because I knew it was cold, I just like filled up a cup of water. My cup is 16 ounces, and I poured the first packet in, and it seems a little undersaturated. So now I have to go for a second.
Yeah,
but I have no idea because there's no instructions.
I'm Googling it. I'm cheating.
I'm drinking out of my... Oh, we don't have our cameras going, but I'm drinking out of the...
a Nikki Offen
cup.
Love it.
Friend of the show. My spoon is steaming hot still.
Hot. I'm having trouble mixing it because I've got the cold.
According to Walmart.com, the official authority of everything Korean, apparently.
That's true. I've heard that. Yep.
It's Gold's Blend.
Gold's Blend, not cold blend?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I guess in proper Konglish, if it was the hard K, ko, like hyok, then it would be, the extra line. Then it would be cold. But yeah, so maybe it's a gold blend. So maybe I'm in the wrong.
Yes.
Oh, gosh.
You're in the wrong. Now you're going to drink room temperature coffee. That's probably not great.
I feel like that's how I drink all my coffee anyway. So.
It's not
room
great.
temp?
Yeah. I'm like, oh.
I got to have that hot stuff, to be honest. And then I chug. If it gets any colder than hot, I'll just chug it.
It is, it's not great at slightly cold temperatures.
Can I ask your opinion on this? So, like, I see sometimes, like, I'm, like, slightly a germaphobe, but I see sometimes, like, on the shows how they use the packet and then they stir their coffee with it. But I'm like, but what about all the hands that touched it?
What about all the hands?
Yeah.
Pre-COVID, I'd be like, it's just, like, it's economical, right? And you're just, like, you've already got the thing. Post-COVID, I'm like, those germs be nasty up in there. So I definitely feel that now.
I went direct spoon. Didn't even think about using the package.
Yeah, but see, like if you're on the go Korean. And you don't have a spoon around, maybe you're like wiping down the packet with like a Lysol thing, but then you got like Lysol like cleaner on it, which also
Honestly-
sounds disgusting. So
Honestly, if I didn't know that, I probably would not have used the package. No spoon, would have used my finger. I would have just stuck my own hand right in there.
that sounds more sanitary than the package. I don't
I
know.
guess.
It depends on what time of day it is.
I'm enjoying this. It's got
Okay.
like a little chocolatey flavor to it.
I
Right.
think I need to put less water in it, or double packets maybe. But
That's what. Yeah, I was like, I've put in 2 packets, and I don't know if it's not mixing well because it's cold or what, but I feel like I could use a 3rd packet. It's a little under,
A 3rd packet?
just to get proper saturation. I'm not actually going to finish the cup because it is late in
Like,
the
I'm
afternoon, and I would like to sleep like a normal person.
I'm on 1 packet here, and I feel like that's appropriate
Well,
amount.
apparently,
I
you
guess
got
for
the right
water
ratio.
content. Yeah, water ratio. Yeah.
my old job, I was working in a long time ago. I was working in like a healthcare company, and we had a really shy guy that worked with us, and he like never talked to me. And I was like, "It's okay," like hi, and he'd like run away. But then one day he came up to me and he was like, "Nicole, like I'm slightly concerned about your health," and I was like, "Oh, okay." And he's like, "I watched how much coffee you drink in a day, and I'm convinced you're going to give yourself a heart attack. So if you could just cut your caffeine consumption."
Wow.
So I was like, okay. So I actually
Man.
actively tried to drink less coffee while I was still employed there, because I was like, this poor shy guy that probably took like all of his effort to come up and say that to me. So I should respect his wishes.
Well, I mean, but also, like, why is he watching you drink coffee all day?
It's
You
fine.
know,
Yeah,
like-
that's fair. That's fair.
maybe he watches everybody drink coffee all day.
That's a good point. He's got he's got a little notebook. He's just tallying up hours
He
on
just
coffee.
takes
And
the
he went
notes.
to you because you were at the top of that list.
Yeah.
He's like, oh,
It's making
This girl.
his way through the list. Yeah,
That's incredible.
Okay, how do you prefer your coffee, Nicole?
So if I think I alluded to this earlier, that I am now in my 30s and I am aging. So I have to now put a little creamer to coat my stomach. But I used to drink it black and very strong. And now my stomach is very sensitive, and I love getting older. It's such a blessing.
That's what we say.
Maybe that's what's happening to my stomach. I've cut back on my coffee consumption considerably in the last 3 months. Like, I
That's
only have like
good,
3 cups
'cause
now.
I
because
was
pounding,
legitimately
like,
worried about you.
yeah, I was the Nicole of the Janchi Show when it comes to coffee consumption.
So that was intense. It would be like 6 p.m. and he'd be like, "Yeah, I'm on my 3rd traveler's mug." I'm like, "You've had 32 ounces of straight black coffee." And like,
I mean,
yeah,
that's the best. That's the only
in
way.
4 hours. I'm like, in 4 hours?
I mean, at a certain point, your body it's not even like affecting you. And
Yeah,
you're just
no, I
like
mean,
the
I
caffeine,
get
it just
it.
sustains your where you are at that level.
Yeah.
So I needed to wean off of it anyway. So it's fine.
All right.
I felt like I had to cut the packaging open on this. Did you feel like it was hard to get open?
No, you just rip
Oh,
it.
I
I
couldn't
didn't
rip
even
mine.
try. I definitely just cut it.
Oh, okay.
Oh, really?
We always do. We do package ratings sometimes.
It
Yeah,
also
ease
says-
of open.
It says easy cut. So
Oh.
that's why I just followed the instructions. I was
I
like,
tried to tear it on
I'm just
both
gonna-
ends and it wouldn't tear.
You have to do it
And-
like, oh, I thought it teared pretty easily.
for the listeners, it says easy cut in English. So that's not like a, a flex of my Hangul reading.
Yeah, easy cut.
But yeah, so the other thing about these mixed coffees is I feel like, especially with one called Gold Blend or Cold Blend, whichever you prefer, probably Gold Blend, it's going to be heavy creamer. And I don't love creamer. I prefer a black coffee. Actually, I guess I say I only put creamer in a coffee if I think the coffee is poorly made or like the beans are bad. So typically that's like a downgrade for me. And I wish this didn't have creamer. And also if it didn't have creamer, it probably wouldn't have that much coffee in it. So yeah, that's kind of
That's a good
my
point.
overall take.
I don't think that I've seen the single serve coffees, like the instant coffees without creamer in the packaging. Like the one
Yeah.
we did last time had cream in it.
Oh yeah.
And this definitely looks like it. I mean, now that you're saying that, I'm like, okay, I saw the white stuff in there too. So that had to be the cream stuff. And it definitely has the look.
I think Maxim has one without
Interesting. I'd be interested to try that.
sugar. That's the word I'm looking for. That's my
without
sugar emotion.
without the thing that makes it sweet.
Yeah,
I
I'd
guess.
say this is like, I'd say it's like 50, it's like a half and half almost. Like a half coffee, half creamer.
I don't like my coffee super sweet though either. So
Same.
that's part of it.
Yeah. So let's jump into ratings. Patrick, why don't you go first? How many gold blends do you give this out of 5?
I'm going to give this 3.5 gold blends I think it's just it's a solid cup of coffee, but it's not spectacular. Too much cream. Definitely too much cream. And that's about it. Good piping hot, I will say. Very good piping hot. Tasted pretty good.
All right. Nicole, what about you? How many easy cuts out of 5 do you give it?
I'm going to say 2, I feel.
2?
Yeah. I like the other one I get better.
Okay.
I think, but yeah.
All right. You're
She's
like, if
like,
I had
2,
made this in a
that's
French
it.
press, yeah, maybe it would have
I
dissolved
just don't
properly.
want to, no, then I have to clean it.
No, it all dissolves. It's fine. It's just to make sure that it all gets mixed in. Yeah, I'm also going to give it a 2. I will acknowledge that there were a number of faults made on my part because I thought I was smarter
That's
than
user
everyone
error.
else and was just wronger than everyone else. But yeah, it's a lot of like, it's definitely like that instant milk, like powdered milk situation for cream. And then it's a sweeter thing anyways. And it's just, for me, the ratio is all sorts of wrong. So it's like only like the watery bits. It's like when you get an iced coffee and you finish it and then all of the ice melts. If you were to drink that again, that's what I'm currently drinking. So
Interesting.
it's not great. And I realize that's my fault, but such is life. So yeah, I'm going to say a 2. I can't imagine it being that much better if it was hot.
Y'all are making me want to amend my rating.
I mean,
Also, 2. No, I'm just kidding.
live-
I'm sticking
live
with.
your truth,
I'll
man.
maybe go 3, but I'm
Yeah.
sticking with the 3 and above.
3 and above.
Yeah, I'm
Anywhere
giving it
from
a
3 to
and up.
5. I don't know. No.
At any given moment, any taste.
Incredible. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for coming back and hanging out with us and for telling us your story and the listeners your story. Really love to being able to hear that. Will you tell everyone where they can find you and interact with you if you are open to being interacted with?
Nicole, but Nicolle Beaury, Beaury, and I have 2 L's in my name because my mom is corny and adorable and thinks that I have 2 mothers in the world that loved me, so she wanted the 2 L's in there. So that's why.
Oh, 2
We didn't
L's
even
for
get
double
into that.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gotta talk to you about.
Wow.
I gotta talk to you about something off air.
Yeah.
That's an off-air conversation.
That is an
If you
off-air
wanna
conversation.
Subscribe to our Patreon, our non-existent Patreon. You could probably hear it.
Maybe.
They'll just conference call you in. So
If you,
Fine.
you know what, you should start it. Your investor, like the lowest investor level, could be this coffee packet. Higher memberships get higher rated snacks.
it's really funny making your way up to. I wonder what the top tier snack would be.
The Kosomi cracker.
Oh yeah, that's true.
We've
Kosomi
referenced that
is like-
cracker for probably 50 weeks after.
yeah,
Can you
that
see
one was
these things?
super good.
These are awful. I love
What the
them.
heck are those?
They're like, I know you guys
Edu.
can't see it. It's like literally just Korean.
Engdukon.
I don't recommend them, but I love them. I eat these like crack.
Are
It's
they
like
corn balls?
Yeah, and it tastes like basically like Fruit Loops, but they always taste stale. Even when I got them in Korea, they tasted stale, and I don't care. I love them, and I'm like, why am I eating this? Like, I ate an entire bag though, because I was like stress eating from being in Korea, and now I just always have these. With
Now
me.
they're back with you.
But they're stale.
You're like,
I don't know why.
wanna
Like them.
I want to relive the stress with
I feel
stale
like-
corn balls.
I feel like most people will rate it like a 1, but like I don't know. It's just a random.
It's like that comfort food.
It's a
like
random
good
comfort food
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me.
yeah.
That's really funny. It's
I
like
would
nothing
probably
like
eat the whole bag too.
the sweet sounds of the Busan shoreline and also these stale corn balls. Yeah, just popping them.
I like that we nearly identically said, "Are those corn balls?" That was great. Oh, that was great.
That's awesome. Well, yeah, thanks so much and for coming on and we'll link all of your handles in the show notes so that people can get the spelling right and interact with you that way. If you want to find us, you can find us at Janchi Show wherever we are on the internet. You send us an email to janchishoww@gmail.com. You can leave a voicemail. We actually have one that I'm excited to play, but you can leave us a voicemail 972-677-8867.
Leave us a rating or review.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my gosh. The coffee hasn't kicked in yet. You can leave us a rating or review at any place that you can do that on any podcast platform.
Just anywhere that accepts reviews, please
Just-
review our show.
Just go on to Yelp. Just
Yeah.
like create a physical location for us and then leave us a Yelp rating. You can support the show by going to janchishow.com/support. Our store is up and open, I think. I'm like 80% sure. I don't know. I'm waiting for my credit purchase to be rejected or succeed. We'll see. I may or may not have a new shirt. Who knows? But that's janchishow.com/store. You can find me at KJRoki in the world. Nope. At KJRoki, wherever I want to be found on the internet. You can find Nathan at nnowalk on Facebook and Instagram. And then Patrick, where are you at, bro?
At Patrick in the world, pretty much everywhere.
Wow. I apologize for the hot mess, but we got here. We're at the end of the show. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you, Nicole, for being on here with us. And until next week, Janchi, heyo!
Heyo!
Felt like real old, heyo! Like prospector energy, you know?
It was good. You got through it.